Hey guys, so I picked up this Homelite 3500 watt generator and it's going to need a little bit of work. 100% it needs a new carburetor. Look at that, it's actually broken. Pin's missing out of the float, there's no needle. So this thing's complete junk. Looks like another Honda clone, but this isn't the worst of it. This is an easy fix. This is the problem. I don't have much faith in this fuel tank. I mean, I'm gonna check it to see if it actually holds, but yeah, it's pretty bad. It's actually really bad. So I may have to source, if I can, another fuel tank for this, because that's some pretty bad rust. So stick around, because this is going to be a very good video. Well, I guess first things first, let's see if it runs and generates power. I'm not feeling any compression out of this engine, so I'm gonna have to check for compression. Right, so let's take off the boot. Go. There. Let's see if you can see if the piston's moving even. Well, I do see it coming up and down, so the piston's moving, so that's a good sign. So let's get the compression tester on there and see what compression is. Yeah, that's what I thought. Absolutely nothing. Could be a stuck valve. Could be bad rings. So let's find out what exactly is going on. Let's get this unit inside, get it on the bench, and see what's happening. Okay guys, we're inside. Let's get this cover off and check these valves. Alright, so 10 mil. Let's get this cover off. 4. Alright. Nope, still on there tight. Nope. Mini pry bar or pry driver. Not many places to pry. Oh, I think I got it. I think I hear the gasket underneath cracking. Great. Of course it is. Just doesn't want to come off. Oh, of course. The gasket's fried. Shucks. I was hoping. Wonder why there's a secondary cover. That gasket survived. Okay, so here we go. We've got the valves now exposed. Let's roll the engine over to top dead center. Let's get it to top dead center. See if these valves move. Oh, that's interesting. I see this valve moving, but the valve doesn't actually move. Watch this. We got ourselves a stuck valve. Well, there's your problem. Look at that. That's a problem. With that valve not moving, we're never, ever going to get compression. So let's tear into this, see if we can get that valve freed up. All right, let's get her to top dead center at least. There's top. There we go. The valve moves just fine, but this one seems to be stuck open. So I'm going to get my borescope. I'm going to drop the piston down to bottom, get my borescope, and let's take a look and see what's going on with this valve. There we go. There's the bottom of the travel. This valve should be closed. So the exhaust valve is open, and the intake is not doing anything. Wonder if it's bent. Let's get the borescope to have a peek. All right, I'm just going to give it a little shot of PB Blaster and let it soak a bit. Maybe that'll help it, hopefully, get in there and free it up. Then we'll try tapping it on it after with a soft hammer, see if we can free it up. And if not, then I guess I got to pull the head to take it off. That's going to be a bit of a pain too if I have to pull the head. I can't actually find any info on this engine. I did find the plaque for it. Here's the plaque with all the engine info. And as you can see, it has the family name 9SUMS, which unfortunately, looking that up, doesn't give me anything. Like, sure, I've got 9SUMS.1931, but unfortunately, I can't really see the rest of what it says. I think it's 1931, maybe a G, maybe an A, or it looks like maybe GA, 1931GA, which I searched that up and I never got anything. But this is from the Sumic Machinery and Electric Co., which is apparently a big Chinese engine manufacturer. What a surprise. It's Chinese. You know, to be honest with you, before I go and start banging on this with a hammer or a dowel or anything, I think it might be bent. Not 100% sure, but I think it might be a bent valve. I'm going to pop in the borescope. Let's take a look at the valve at least. Hey, look at that. A red subscribe button. So if you guys made it this far in the video, hit that subscribe button and also give it a thumbs up. Now on to more. And I've got the side mirror on. Here's the exhaust valve. And as we can see, the exhaust valve is closed. But then we look at this intake valve. And she is stuck wide open. Look at the rust. I think some water's gotten in here. The engine's going to need a bit of a cleanup. Valve's going to need to be lapped. But aside from that, I'm not seeing anything overly concerning. Let's take a look at the bottom of the cylinder. Seeing some kind of a mark, but that looks like it's in the middle of the piston. So just a casting mark that would not have come in contact with the valve. So I believe, oh, you can even see the valve open right here. There it is. Hello, valve. Don't even need the side mirror on to see it. You can just see it clear as day just looking through the spark plug hole. Oh boy. Looks like some debris. Not sure what that debris is, but it's right at the bottom of the spark plug hole. I won't worry too much about that. It's tiny. Yeah, it's just stuck on one of the threads. But I don't see any other issues. So look at the walls. I'm actually not seeing any problems with the walls. I'm going to bend the head a little bit. Can't see the walls a bit more. There we go. Lots of cross hatching. I'm not seeing anything on the cylinder sides. The walls, nothing. Just cross hatching. No up and down scoring, which is great. A little bit, maybe a little tiny bit there. I think this engine's really seen a lot of hours, to be honest with you. Yeah, it looks actually fairly good in here. Okay, well, I don't think there's much point to sitting there banging on that with a hammer and a dowel, because I don't think it's going to come free with the amount of rust that's in there. I don't think I'm going to have much choice other than to take this head off and try to free it up that way. So I guess let's get started with that. I have this plastic cover. And just get some gloves on so I don't get my hands too covered in this filth. Yeah, let's get this 10 mil off. What else is holding on this cover? Perhaps behind here on the fan housing. I'm going to take off the fan cover, it looks like. More 10 mils. Can't get in there. Oh, there we go. Got it. Come on. Come on. There we go. Goodness, what a mess. Oh boy. This must have been sitting for a long time. It's crazy. I don't know what's with all this white powder. Yeah, it looks like Drywall dust. Interesting. All right, let's get this plastic housing off. I'm going to get my vacuum. I'm going to clean all this up. This is terrible. I'm going to plug in the compressor, get some compressed air. Okay, I'm just going to blast this out quickly with some air. There we go. Perfect. Now let's get this stupid gas tank off because it's full of rust anyway and I'm probably not going to use it. So it's 4 10mm bolts. Okay, so I guess I got to start pulling a bit more of this little machine apart. All right, yes, let's get the exhaust off. This out of the way. Clearly, it used to be beside a Rose of Sharon tree. I have a few of these out in my backyard. Well, there's the intake valve push rod. And it's straight. It looks good. Very little wear on it. I wonder what caused this. All right, so let me start unbolting this exhaust, getting the head apart. I've got 10mm back here. Another here at the side. I know I've got my gun right here, but I've misplaced the bit. Yeah, it looks like it's just these two 10mm bolts holding it on to the manifold, and that's it. So let me get a wrench and see if I can pop this off. Okay, 10mm. Glad I put a little bit of PB blaster on this. This is very awkward. Did it fall inside here? Oh dear. All right, well, let's get the second one off. There we go. One exhaust. All right, might as well just take out the spark plug. Yeah, there. So it's using an NGK spark plug, which is a BPR6ES. Okay, so we need to get this head off, and that is a 12mm. Boy, these are on tight. Okay, I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to get the big gun. All right, I'm just going to use the big gun now. 12mm. There we go. These are the ones that came out of the head in the valve cover. I'm seeing corrosion, like water got in there. That explains the rust. There we go. And it's free. Oh, this is absolutely hilarious. Oh, you gotta see this, guys. This is so good. I'm gonna get some better light. Look at that. Oh, is that not a funny sight to see? Wow, that is such a laugh. Oh, got spiders that lived in here. What a great example of a valve that is stuck. I don't think it's bent. I think it's just stuck from rust. I'm going to let this soak with some PB Blaster overnight and see if it's freed up in the morning. I'm going to set the intake rod aside and leave the exhaust rod in place just so it doesn't get lost. Okay, just going to spray with some PB Blaster. We'll let that soak in there overnight and we'll check it in the morning. Alright guys, so it's the morning, and one thing I am noticing, other than the fact that I took the head gasket off, see, here's the head gasket. It is of course non-reusable, but if I do fix this, I just want to put the head gasket back on, put it on, and just test for compression. Because unfortunately, I'm kind of looking at this and I noticed a little bit of an issue that it's actually really going to affect this generator quite a bit because the stator's broken. This morning when I came in to check on the head and to start recording, I was just brushing away some dust and I noticed this. This is kind of ominous, I think. I think this is going to be a bit of a problem. I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I can get this to run. I can get it to test to see if there's power. But I could probably test the power head and everything separate from the engine, just doing standard lead tests and stuff like that. But it would be nice to see it generate power. So what I think I might do is once I see that this thing has compression, get a new head gasket, get new carburetor, at least get the engine to run. Because if I can get the engine to run, at least seeing we have a viable engine, I can always save it for if I ever have a blown power head. There's no way I could run this for very long, especially with a broken mount. I thought this generator had been dropped because I looked at it and it was always on a slope. I thought that it was just that the bed here was bent. That's all I thought, and that's why I was thinking, oh, well, I guess I can always just fix this rail here. But no, it wasn't just the rail. It's the actual stator that's broken. Glad I didn't pay much for this unit. Let's get back to what we were checking on, which was that head and that stuck valve. We're back to this, and as you can see, the valve is in a little bit. I did push on it a bit with the mallet, and it did move a little. I've got some valve spring compressors on order, but I'm going to give this another tap to see if I can force it in the rest of the way, and then we can see if we can push it back out with our fingers. I don't think so, but it would be nice to try. All right, I got my mallet. Give it a couple more taps. It doesn't seem to want to budge. There it goes. That's the rest of the way. There we go. So there we go. The intake valve is all the way in. Wonder if we'll be able to push it back out. Nope. Not at all. I'll try tapping it the wood inside. I actually feel movement. I do. I actually feel movement. You give it a couple taps. See if you can see the movement. Actually, I wonder if I can push against my leg with it. Let's see. I got it moving. Look at that. That's success. The exhaust. No problem. Back to intake. It's a little sticky at first, but I think if I take it out, clean it up, it should work out okay. Now I can even push it with my finger. That's awesome. That's great news. At least we got that freed up. So I just got to get my spring compressor and then lap the valves a couple times to reseat them, clean this surface up, reseal it with the old head gasket, and just see if it generates compression. Because if it makes compression, then at least I know that this is going to be a good engine, or a relatively okay engine, which, considering the circumstances, I'll take an okay engine. As soon as my spring compressors come, because I've got them on order, I'll come back and we'll start checking out these valves and cleaning them up. I'll see you then. All right, so let's get the intake valve out first. The valve moves actually very easy now, all the way through its travel. So I'm gonna pull it out and at least clean it up, and then we'll see about getting this reassembled so we can at least test it out for compression. I don't know whether so much about reusing the head gasket and lighting it up, but I mean, the worst thing that you'll have is maybe an oil leak and compression leak. I don't think it'll destroy the engine running it for like half a second to see if it runs and if this stator will generate power, but we'll do it properly. We'll get a new head gasket, but we'll at least test for compression. Even if we don't get, say, perfect compression, if it generates any, that's good enough, because it was basically spinning like a wheel. So any compression's better than what it had before. So let's get these springs, the spring compressed and the valve out. Yes, it is as finicky as it looks. But it's not a terrible premise. What did I do? All right. Let's make sure this is centered, which it isn't. Of course not. Why would it be? There. Now we got it centered. Get the bar through. And we'll just compress it. And I just heard the keeper fall out. There's the keeper. My container of parts for this generator. Put that keeper in there. Okay, and now we release it slowly. And I just heard the top of the spring fall down on the floor. And there's the valve. It just fell right out. Found another screw for this on the floor as well. Good. There's the spring and the top to it. Put that spring and cap with the keeper. And this screw with the other ones of the same. The valve, however, it actually doesn't look that bad. I'm not going to lie. Valve looks pretty good. I'll clean it up. I'll get it nice and shiny off camera. I'll clean the head, clean the piston, get all that looking nice off camera. And then when I come back, we'll start assembling it and see if there's compression. And then we'll go from there. But let me put this aside so I can go clean it up, and then we'll get the exhaust valve out. All right, let's repeat the process with the exhaust valve. Come on, cooperate, guys. All I want you to do is turn around. Yep, just like, there we go. That's what I wanted. There, went a little bit too far. Spin this out a little bit. We'll center it on the spring. Stand it up so that we can lower this down onto the valve. Almost there. There we go, we're on the valve. Make sure we're centered on the spring. Which, yes, we are. We're centered on the spring. I'll lay this down. Now we'll slowly compress it. Shouldn't take too much. There we go. Just about there. Perfect. Okay, got my needle nose. And actually, even better, I got a magnetic pry driver. Look at that. Perfect. And that's why I like having a magnetic pry driver. Okay, now let's slowly release it. Oh, man. Just going to put this away. That's interesting. Look at that shmoo. That was on the exhaust. And the exhaust port was actually working fine. Huh. How about that? Very interesting. All right, let me clean that up. I wonder if that'll just wash down the cylinder when I sprayed it with PB Blaster. But the exhaust port, the exhaust valve, doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't actually, and this is the working one, doesn't look quite as good as the intake one does. Let me grab the intake valve. So I took out the exhaust valve first. I was wrong. That's why it looks so good. That's the exhaust valve. This is the working one. That's why there was no shmoo in it. So good thing I double checked, because I would have been like, oh, I was pretty sure I put the intake valve with the intake rod, but okay. So yeah, good thing I double checked. So we got the exhaust first. But yeah, take a look at, here's the intake, and take a look at the edging, or the edge of this valve. That explains all the shmoo. And then we look at the edge of this valve, if it'll focus. It's really nice. That's why I was really confused the first time. I thought I took out the intake, but no, I took out the exhaust. So yeah, the exhaust valve looks really good, and honestly, the intake valve doesn't look bad. It should polish up and clean up nicely. So I'm going to do all that off camera, and when we and then when we're reassembling it, we'll adjust the valve lash. I think it's supposed to be 10 thousandths on both. I'll double check in the manual, but I think it was stamped on that cover I took off that it's 10 thousandths. So this actually should go pretty good if it generates pressure. Sorry, if the engine has compression, then yeah, we're going to get a head gasket and a carburetor for this thing so we can see it run. That'll be awesome to see. All right, guys, let's put these away. I would say that the intake valve cleaned up quite nice. The exhaust valve too. It cleaned up really nice. I just used a Scotch-Brite pad to take care of the carbon with a little bit of WD-40. Took care of it quite nice. Plus, I also put them through the ultrasonic cleaner. And yeah, they came out great. So start with the intake valve. Okay. Come on. Spin. There we go. Just doesn't want to work for me. Just doesn't want to hold on. I think that one cleaned up really nice. Very nice ring around it. That should have a really nice seal. Right, I'm going to pop that one in, and then we'll get the exhaust valve done. Well, this one worked out nice. There we go. Yeah, this one should have a nice seal too. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to loosen these off so we can remove them for now. So 9/16 with a 10 mil. Don't worry, we'll be resetting the valve lash to 1/10,000th as it says on the cover. Okay, and this is the intake side. There we go. I'm just going to put these in their case. I'll be right back. Okay, so my goal is to try to just use my fingers and press on the springs and get the keepers in place. So let's start with the intake side. Okay, the intake's done. Let's go to the exhaust. The exhaust valve's actually falling out. There we go. That's not falling down anymore. Spring cap. Okay, let's get the keeper in. Here we go. Both valves are now in place. Perfect. It actually cleaned up pretty nicely. I put this whole thing right inside my ultrasonic cleaner and then gave it a scrub with some WD-40 and a brush, and it came out pretty good. I got a little bit of bad news though about this. So this is all great. This is all fantastic, everything that's gone up to this point. But let me show you the piston. Okay, so maybe not so much the piston itself, but let me lower it. Yeah, this is a problem. This is actually a big problem. As you can see, for the bottom 2/3 is really nice. Lots of nice cross hatching and everything. In fact, even the first third, I've got cross hatching that I can easily see on the sides. But it looks like water has sat down in here, and I've kind of scrubbed away with a soft pad just to get rid of it as best as I could, all the rust with some WD-40. And some of this, yeah, it's pitted. So unfortunately, this engine, it may run, but it's going to burn a lot of oil. So this engine is basically scrap. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to put it back together, use the old head gasket, re-bolt it all, put the spark plug in, we'll check for compression, then we'll see if this power head actually generates power. Because if this power head at least generates power, that's the most important unit on this generator. These engines, they're pretty cheap. Or I can just use this engine for parts for another one in the future. The head's good, but unfortunately the cylinder, not so much. Anyway, let's get back to it. Okay, so against my better judgment, I'm going to reuse the old head gasket because, as I said, this engine's junk, and we just want to see if it'll run the generator. So I'll get the head bolts. I wonder what that's for. Why does it have this ear here? That's very bizarre. There's two sizes. There's a short bolt and a long bolt. The short bolt goes by the plug. The long bolt goes inside the valve train. I'm going to run these down by hand first, just so they are seated. I'm going to go in cross pattern. I don't have the torque for this. I'll see if I can find it before I torque this all down. Let me see if I can find the info. So I found some literature that says it's about 18 foot-pounds. Okay, so I found some information that it's roughly about 216 inch-pounds. What I'll do is I'll go up to about 140 first, then I'll go up to 216. And of course, I don't have the exact pattern, but I'll start in the valve cover and I'll do a cross pattern. So let's go up to 140 first. There we go. It's 140 for that one. Oops, that slipped. Try that again. Okay, so that's 140. I'm going to get a longer extension. That one was just slightly too short. Now, this one. All right, so now 216. So there's 210, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 216. Right there. Start again with this one. There we go. Perfect. Let's do the valves. I don't expect anything special out of this engine. I just want to see, do we get compression, which I'm sure we will. I figure if we can get compression, should be enough just to run off a little bit of carb spray so we can get this generator to spin over enough that we can see if it makes power. I think it'd be great if it makes power. So let's get these valves set. First, let's get the rods in, and then we'll get the rockers on. Here's the intake rod. The worn part goes towards the top. The exhaust rod. Slightly less worn, but you can see it is there. Now, just to make sure that they do move up and down. Exhaust, intake. And a little bump on the exhaust means that the compression release is working on this engine. Now we get to see if the valves are going to move. So put the exhaust rocker on. Just going to screw it all the way down first, then we'll set the valve lash. Now the jam nut. Now the intake. Jam nut. Okay, moment of truth. If I turn this over, are we going to have compression? Place your bets now. Just going to shoot a little bit of WD-40 in the cylinder just to have it a little bit, at least a little bit of lube. Intake's open. Exhaust. I can feel a compression stroke now. This actually, I can feel the compression stroke even without the plug. So I'm going to put my finger over the hole. Yep. Let's try that again. There we go. Did you see that? Watch this. Oh. We've got compression. Beautiful. All right. Let me get this covered up and then we'll fire her up and see what happens. So I have the piston at top dead center, and this has to be set between 1 and 2 thousandths. So I'm going to set it at 1 thousandths or 1.5 thousandths. Just going to screw my hand. Okay, so 1.5 thousandths. Got some nice drag. Tighten that down. A little bit too much now. It's good there. Right about here is good. Just double check it one more time. This is the most finicky part of it. Setting valve lash. One and a half. Check 2 thousandths. 2 thousandths goes through. Okay. Let's try 2.5. 2.5 will not go in. So this is good. Now let's get the intake. Or 1.5 thousandths feeler. Actually, that feels good right there. Yeah, that's good there. Okay, one more time. Try it again. Hopefully it didn't move again on me. Yep, it moved a little bit on me. Of course it did. Loosen this up a little. Okay, we'll try that one more time. Actually, this feels good right here. Good drag, 1.5. See, how about 2 thousandths? 2 thousandths, very good drag. Okay, let's see if 2.5 fits. Okay, 2.5. 2.5 does not fit. Perfect. Okay, let's get the cover on this. But first, I'm going to put a little bit of oil in here. Let's check the valve movement. Looks good. Better than it was, that's for certain. Okay, piston's back at top dead center. I'm going to squirt a little bit of oil in here. Then we'll cover it up, put the exhaust back on, put the recoil back on, put the plug back in, take it outside, and give her a rip. Oil in the cylinder. There we go. Not a lot. Just going to run it up and down a couple times. Oops. There we go. All right, back top dead center. And let's get the valve cover on. It's 4 10mm bolts. These we torque down to 60 inch-pounds. There we go. All right, let's get the exhaust on. Talk about finicky. This exhaust. Really? The worst part is I gotta do this by hand, and then I gotta use a wrench. There, it's down to good and tight. It's German for proper torque. Good and tight. Isn't this finicky? There we go. That one too. Down to good and tight. Let's get the winter diverter on. It's another 10mm bolt. Looks like it's used to blow warm air towards the carburetor in cold temperatures to prevent it from icing up. Torque that down to 60 inch-pounds. There we go. Tighten up the screw. Pretty sure that metal bracket's a little bent. All right, let's get the spark plug in. And I think I had two 10mm bolts on the side. Yep, I have one here. Right, and the last one's right here by the up on top of the stator. I get this one in. Maybe. My hands are all stunned. There we go. Now the spark plug. 22 mil spark plug socket. There we go. It's on. Let's get the blower housing on. There we go. All right, let's get it outside. All right, I've got the spark plug back out. I just want to check what compression we're getting. Anything will be better than what we were getting before, which was 0. Okay, I'll leave this here. Let's see what we get now. Well, I'd say I'm pretty darn impressed. That's about 80 psi. This thing will run beautifully. All right, let's get that plug in. Squirt a little bit of carb cleaner in there. See if it turns that light bulb on. All right, here goes. It's on. Let's try that again. So close. I'll say one thing, guys. This little guy was a hell of a lot of fun to work on. And it's a good power head. And that engine, that really surprised me. I think I'm actually going to take it all apart again, get a head gasket, and get a carburetor. I might keep this little guy for myself. I kind of like it. Anyway, guys, see you in the next one. If I can get it, but my hands are too stunned. Ay, my hands are all stunned. Okay. Angry robot, Elliot. Sorry, not the valves. I misspoke. First, we'll get the rods in, then the valves. Sorry, I mean, first we'll get the rods in, then we'll get the rockers.
the valves are already in.
E.T. phone home.